Hello there.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm alive. I can't complain. I'm truly blessed.
That's wonderful to hear. That's lovely to hear. Well, thank you very much for coming on my podcast. It's been a pleasure talking to you at first as well, and
yes.
getting to know you a little bit.
Yes, very much so. Likewise, I enjoyed the conversation we initially had at the beginning, just meeting each other.
That's absolutely fantastic. So how you've been?
Oh, I've been wonderful. Just started doing a lot of things, mostly focused on writing my next book, school, because I'm back in college, working on my master's, and then also trying to gain my real estate license.
Lovely. What are you studying?
Organizational leadership.
Oh, wonderful. That's lovely to hear. So, ladies and gentlemen, whoever doesn't know Mr. Wonderful Sylvester Jenkins, he's a former US military veteran and went through quite a few emotional things, psychological difficulties, and has overcome them. And that's what we wanted to talk today about, how you can actually progress and overcome these things and still look for opportunities. He's the author of various books. Is that right? More than one book? You're writing at the moment another book, and you have actually encouraged and a lot of people to follow your path of positivity, that there's always a way out, become resilient to pain and to trauma, and how to use these things to create opportunities.
Yes, very much so. Thank you so much for that introduction.
You're very welcome. No, it's well deserved. I did read through your bio and everything. So I must say it's very nice to see that we hear a lot of stories about, people just not progressing and just suffering a lot and not knowing the way. And it's nice to see a positive story. That's what we need to bring out, that there is ways out.
Yes.
There is ways out. It's about your mindset. It's about your strength, your inner belief. And you have really shown that wonderfully.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that. Yes, I believe that I believe in hope. And there's a lot of people that lost their sense of hope, especially after the pandemic back in 2020. And I believe that hope stands for me is help one person every day. So I believe anytime I share a message or come on platforms like this, or just, send out any type of post on social media, is to encourage somebody who's dealing with a tough time, is to help those who are dealing with that emotional lack that they're not experiencing on a day-to-day basis. Because we don't all, let's be honest, every day ain't gonna be rainbows and sunshine. We're all gonna deal with some type of difficulties, sluggish moments. So I just want to give people a sense of hope, just to get them motivated, just to keep them going and moving forward.
That's lovely said. We spoke about that before when we had our little meeting, that people often misconstrue that just having to fight for everything, they have to stay positive all the time. No, you have to be realistic rather than positive. That's what it's about. Positivity includes realistic, real life events, and positivity includes self-kindness as well, and positivity includes self-soothness. All these kind of little things, people forget that when they have to put up these strengths, when they have to fight through, it doesn't always mean that you cannot cry, you cannot sorrow, and you cannot allow yourself to have some bad time at times,
Right. All those things were developed for a reason. The purpose behind you crying, the purpose behind you feeling any type of emotions, it's there for a reason. And you just have to home in and gain that self-awareness in order to be able to project them or just have that self-awareness in order to know what your triggers are in order to counteract them. And a lot of people don't. And I just want to continue to try and like send little nuggets here and there, and just in order to help them cope with day-to-day life.
And that's lovely to hear. I mean, you brought up a very, very important point, which is part of my coaching as well, which I do with my clients, is self-awareness. Being self-aware of your strengths, of your weaknesses, of your surroundings, of what's happening, and just be in tune with that, you know, because you're more self-aware you are of these things, you better you can manage them.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people deal with some things I call special forces. You know, just dealing with my time in the military, you know, we have certain particular groups that come in and just go and combat the enemy. And, you know, the biggest enemy that we'll ever face is our mind. And so when it comes to the battle that we face, the enemy sends out its special forces: fear, inner critic, self-doubt, perfectionism. All these enemies, these special forces come in, and it just knocks you off your platform and sends in the limited beliefs that prevent you from moving forward and continuing to carry on with your life. And it's all up here. It's never out there with the people that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. It's all within ourselves. So I just ask people to be kind to yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very good point made. I mean, we also spoke about that. You know, I would like to hear more about your story. If you could tell our audience whatever you feel comfortable with, how you actually found this path and what you had to go through. That would be lovely.
Absolutely. So I came from humble beginnings, just to be honest with you. Grew up in a single parent home, gang and drug infested neighborhood, went down the motions of dealing with identity issues, emotional detachment, just having that sense of rejection, dealing with growing up as a young Black man without a male figure present in my life. And just going through the motions of just dealing with just figuring out my masculinity, figuring out my purpose, figuring out my way of life. I dealt with those things on numerous occasions. It caused me to be in a downhill spiral, honestly. Just dealing with everything. I failed multiple times in school, resorted to drugs and alcohol. I was breaking into people's homes. I was doing multiple things, just looking for that sense of acceptance, but I never found it. And so I got tired of being in that environment just due to the fact that I always continued to see my mother struggle. And I wanted to just let her know that her sacrifices that she made never went unjustified. So I joined the military. And when I joined the military, I looked to get out of my environment and look for a sense of purpose. And when I joined the military, I still faced those battles as far as the adversity, the childhood adverse experiences, just going through the motions of never being able to know how to deal with stress management, emotional issues, just having all that sense of what really was truly inside of me and that I was dealing with. And so just going along that journey, I deployed 4 times to Iraq, 1 time to Afghanistan, faced that hardships of dealing with being in a combat environment. You know, your life is on the line 365 days. So you think the difference between like somebody that's never been in the combat and somebody that has been in the combat, PTSD, anxiety, depression, I was diagnosed with. And you know, during my transition from the military, I transitioned from the military the same time the pandemic happened. So the whole financial issue became a conflict for me because I was no longer getting a steady paycheck. And I got a family, a wife and 4 kids. So I'm trying to figure out like, how will I provide for my family? The world just shut down. I can't get no job. My retirement check ain't gonna cover everything that I have. But then I started to notice that it wasn't about being the things that I wanted. It was about appreciating the things that I had, because for so many years, I was detached from my family due to deployments, always being in command positions, having to put the military first instead of my family. And now that we're quarantined, it was like, you have that opportunity to spend time with your family. You have that opportunity to find yourself. You have that opportunity to invest where it's needed the most. And when I noticed that, that's when everything started to shift. That's when my paradigm shifted. And when my paradigm shifted, I started to appreciate and have an attitude of gratitude in order to just dive in more as far as finding myself. Because We try to be the good parent. We try to be the good business owner, entrepreneur, coach, whatever it might be. But who are you for yourself? That's what a lot of people don't take the time to realize. You give your all to all these organizations and everything else, but who are you for yourself? Try to dig in the most, because that's where your biggest investment will ever be. It's just like when you're riding on a plane. They tell you to don your mask first before you help anybody else. And if you don't take care of yourself, how can you take care of anybody else? But that's just a little bit of my story, and I'm pretty much that's it.
And that is so beautifully said. I can feel your passion through. It's so important to find yourself and to take care of yourself, because what most people are forgetting, that we are not selfless people.
Right.
We are human beings. We have our needs, even if we think we are selfless, but we're not, because we have our emotions, then they need to be fulfilled in one way or the other. And if we don't take care of ourselves, how are we going to take care of our environment to the full extent? You know, that is where people are misconstruing this kind of concept, that in order to take care of your family, of your loved ones, of your environment to the fullest, how you should do or how you could do in your abilities, you need to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Most important. And that is why a lot of people then start suffering with, you went through PTSD, but you came out in a way that you actually became aware of that, started self-believing in yourself and self-caring of yourself, which a lot of people don't do. They become ingrained and engulfed in a certain event, what happened to them or where they found themselves to be in, and cannot come out.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's a very, very good example. And I think we need to do more of that, present more of people like yourself who actually have fought through. Because let's be honest, our system generally, wherever you're in the US or in the UK, anywhere in the world, mental health system, help, it's not great. Unfortunately.
It's not the best. I will say at times they cookie cut some of the treatment they give, which means you have to do a lot more self-evaluation and help yourself even more. You got to dig deep, do your research, homework, whatever it might be, and start to figure out strategies in order to counteract those things.
No, absolutely. And I would like to believe so, that you have helped a lot of people just by inspiring them, the way how you talk, the passion which you bring forward. And that is so important. Now, tell us about your books. What was the reason why you actually wrote these books? I would like to hear that.
Yes, absolutely. So I never had any type of belief in myself as far as doing something as writing a book. Like I said, I failed multiple times in school. I even had my English teacher tell me that I wasn't college material. And when you hear those things, you find yourself in like a predicament of feeling unworthy, no value towards yourself or anything like that. So my first book was A Quick Key to Successful Leadership, where I speak about several attributes that I feel all, beginning leaders or intermediate leaders should have in order to become a phenomenal and effective leader. And I just speak about my life, as far as me going from not even having a sense or a clue of being a leader to where I am now, as far as transitioning from being in the military, meeting one of the second highest rank that you can ever achieve in the military, to transitioning into who I am today, as far as being a professional speaker, an author, a coach, and all these other things. So it's like, how was I able to do this? And I just took the opportunity during the time of finding myself and just started outlining everything. I let my wife read it, and she said, "This is good. You should put it in a book." And I said, "No, I'm from the hood. We don't write books in the hood." And she was like, "No, this is real good. This is something that will help other people." And I feel like it's a blessing to be a blessing. So I took her advice and I started researching on how to publish a book. And that what propelled the first book. And it sold. And when it sold, when I seen people buying it, I was like, I really have an influence on people. And they gave me so much feedback talking about how great it was, how good it was. When your next book coming out? So I was like, oh, okay, let me go into the motions of writing another one. So I wrote the book, Winning the Battle Within, because just like I spoke about before, the biggest enemy that you'll ever face is your enemy, your mind. But the main thing is, I think one of the secret ingredients that people don't talk about, it hasn't become like a real hot topic until now, which is resilience. Resilience is how you win the battle within, the psychological resilience, the emotional resilience. These are things that we have not really focused on in life at all. So my book is basically dealing with tips and strategies. It's a go-to manual, short read, but able to give you all the things you need in order to become a powerhouse as far as having that psychological resilience. So those are what propelled me to write those books and where I am right now.
And that is fantastic point. You know, you also took the opportunity not just about building your own strength or building your own knowledge about how you can bring that forward, but also took the advice of your loved ones. And right. That is what people need to understand, that sometimes by accepting yourself and by looking within yourself internally, you also then start accepting the good things, the opportunities which come about. Because if you're too much engulfed in your own pettiness and the sorrow which you're going through, you often miss these opportunities.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And just today I was doing a review, just seeing how many books I done sold over, the past 2 years. And when I noticed the number, it was over 1,000 books that I've sold so far, right? So I was like, man, I felt like I at one point, I felt like I didn't meet the mark of where I wanted to be. But then I realized that I wouldn't even be this far if I never started. If I never took the opportunity, I would never sold this many books. So I had to be grateful just for the number that I sold compared to what I didn't, the goal that I didn't reach. So it's just finding those small things, appreciate the small wins as much as you do the big ones.
Absolutely. You're bringing a very, very important point. Often people put themselves or put in front of them too high goals, which are unachievable. And when they don't reach these goals, then they become very disheartened and the motivation starts lacking. But what you've put across is a comparison on how you started to what you've achieved now, which is a progress.
Right.
And that's so crucial to understand, that we must focus on the progress, not actually on the goals or any kind of sets which we have put in front of us, but progress from one to another. It's like taking baby steps, going from one step to another rather than jumping onto step 10.
Right, absolutely. I once heard Les Brown say, practice and practice makes what? And everybody said perfect. And then he was like, no, it makes improvement, progress. That's what it makes. There's no such thing as perfect. And I was like, man, he just astounded me in 30 seconds.
Absolutely, absolutely. I always say to people, generally, that's my philosophy as well. You cannot measure success without failures. Failures are your foundation of success. Yes. You build over failures, you build over setbacks, you build over experiences. That's how you measure success. Because just having success in your life or just having a good time in your life does not measure anything. It's just something. And you can only measure that with something where you had to go through adversities, which are completely the opposite in what you're achieving.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like failure is the key to success. I totally agree with you. I tell people that quite often. Failure is not when you lose a battle. Failure is when you give up. And as long as you keep on fighting, as long as you keep on pushing, as long as you make put one foot in front of the other, you're still winning. Regardless of where you might be at. Guess what? Small steps equal great distances. Just keep moving forward. I promise you, I say the same thing all the time.
Absolutely. That's so wonderfully said, and people need to understand that small progress creates big differences, not the other way around. Right. Otherwise, you would have a really battle of chaos and disaster, because you haven't built up onto anything. You
Right.
wouldn't be able to look back onto anything.
At all. At all.
No, that's lovely to hear. I love your passion. I mean, the guests which I had so far, they all had a certain level of compassion to the way how they feel about the achievement. And that is so important to bring that forward to the audience.
Right.
To make them feel that there are hope with this compassion. You know, you cannot just build on words, you cannot just build on books, you cannot just build on something which you've learned or followed somewhere. You have to create that compassion within yourself. It has to come from you.
Yes, absolutely. Nobody will believe in you until you believe in yourself.
And that is a very, very crucial point. Self-belief comes first before you then start inspiring other people. And everything else just falls into place. Once you create that foundation within yourself, people automatically become attracted to that, you know, to that attitude, to your compassion, to your lovely smile, to your aura, everything. When people start creating something based on somebody else's opinion, that's where it gets wrong, because they haven't created anything within themselves.
Right. So many times people listen to the things that other people say, but you know, the only way you can really counteract that is by utilizing your self-conscious mind and reflecting on everything that's transpiring. You can't sit there and let one person dictate your whole life. If I had listened to my English teacher who told me that I wasn't college material when I failed English class, there wouldn't be no books out by me. I wouldn't be graduating college or anything like that. I wouldn't be where I am today because I listened to what somebody else said instead of projecting and dictating where I choose to take my life.
Absolutely. That's another thing. I mean, I've put on quite a few clips lately. I don't know if you have been watching my TikToks clips.
You know, I'm a big fan. I support you 100%.
Thank you. And they're all about what you're talking. It's about motivation. It's about listening to yourself. It's about believing in yourself and be persistent about that, you know.
Right.
We need to just put something in your mind, what we believe on our value. As long as it doesn't hurt somebody else, we should just push through, regardless of what somebody else thinks about it, because their vision is not your vision.
Right.
Your vision is your vision. No one else can understand that until you actually achieve that vision, accomplish that vision, and create something in reality what people then can relate to. But they cannot actually see your vision. No one else can.
No one else can. It's like what I call eyesight versus mindsight. Eyesight is seeing the things that you see right in front of you right now. But your mindsight is seeing the things that only you see, nobody else. Because the only way to kill a big dream is tell it to someone with a small mind.
That's right, absolutely. I mean, I can totally relate to you, because when I started my psychology degree, a lot of people said to me, oh, why are you doing that? You know, you're not 20 no more. What you're going to university, we call it here rather than college. What you're going to university for, what are you studying there for? Just go to work and, you know, give up all these things. But no, I went through, I've done my degree, I've achieved something, and not just this, but I've also achieved this. What you're beautifully stating is, with experience, you also acquire knowledge. Yes. In researching things, in reading about things, in finding out things. So that just grows within yourself. And that's where you actually acquire intelligence, you grow intelligence, you become more emotionally intelligent as well as academically intelligent, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally believe in that too, because I feel that adversity is the best teacher, because I give you the exam before any lessons are ever given. You know, you go through the motions of dealing with the financial hardship, divorce, breakups, you know, just dealing with rejection, whatever it might be. And it amazes me how many times I had a strong fear of people telling me no until now. And it was like, you tell me no now, I just see next opportunity. That's all I see. Next opportunity. You tell me no, okay, cool. I'm going on to the next. somebody is going to give me a yes. It might not be you, and I'm not meant for everybody. Everybody is not going to like you. So I'm going to just move on to the next opportunity. So if you hear no, have a fear, don't let nobody stop you, keep moving forward and do your thing.
Absolutely. And that's the good thing which you just brought up. Rejection is part of self-improvement, not failures.
No.
And once you receive rejections, that's where you need to focus on, how do I find solutions for that? Because I have a vision. How do I accomplish that? Rejections will come, as we're saying earlier, that people cannot have your vision. Only you can have your vision. And if you want this vision to be accomplished so people can relate to that, you need to fight through one way or the other.
One way or the other.
No, that's lovely. So, I mean, the lovely thing is, what I wanted to also know about PTSD is a very, very serious thing, a condition. And a lot of people start suffering so much, especially from your background, military background, I'm talking about, when they're returning home, that families unfortunately break up because of their emotional ways, there's no stability there emotionally, and they break down. How did you manage to, just create it, or just to create some stability in that you wouldn't bring your condition into your relationship, for instance, with your children, with your wife?
Right. So to be honest with you, everybody moves at their own pace, and some people move faster than others. But for me, the way I was able to really digress from a lot of the mental illnesses that I was diagnosed with was due to the fact that I was open about it. I wasn't, keep it all bottled up inside. I expressed it. I brought it to my wife's attention. My wife and I, sat down with our kids and we brought it to their attention, letting them know we wanted to bring awareness to it because it's an issue. It's something that's major that a lot of service men and women deal with on a common basis. And there's a lot of things that they experience and go through that people are not really aware of. But when you bring it to light, that's when people are able to be like, okay, I understand where you are. Like if I go to a restaurant, my wife knows I like to sit facing towards the door, just due to the fact that I don't like my back to the door because I sometimes have anxiety dealing with what's going on around me. I don't like being in large areas, crowded locations. I'm always having my spider senses going off. I tell that to my kids, daddy spider senses are going off. And they already understand, oh, okay, he feeling some type of way. They know how to react to it. So it's a strong understanding with me and my family because I brought awareness to it. I didn't keep it bottled up inside. You can't keep it bottled up inside because that's when you erupt like a volcano. And when you erupt like a volcano, you affect the people around you. Hurt people hurt people.
Yeah. Yeah, you made a very, very beautiful point, very important point. Hurt people hurt people. It does. Right. And be open about your feelings. A lot of men, especially, I've released a clip very recently on TikTok, which was about men's mental health. Women talk more openly about it because of the societal conditioning, I would call it, over centuries and years. Men feel they cannot open up themselves. And this clip was about that. A lot of men have been interviewed and they did not feel, even if they had people around them, that they cannot open up to others. Mm-hmm. And that is where the problem rises. And not just men, women as well, but generally it's a lot of men because they feel, because of societal pressures, they have to stand up for themselves. They have to be strong. They cannot show their vulnerability. Right. And you have done that very lovely. And that is very crucial to say. We have to broadcast that more and more, that we need to talk. Yes, right. You choose your people wisely because you don't necessarily want to open up just to anybody, but to open up to generally to people is so important for your own mental well-being as well as people around you. Because as you said, your wife understands that facing not facing the door would create some form of emotional difficulties, anxiety
Right.
within yourself, or being in a crowded place. Your children understand that as well. And that is because you open up to that and you talked openly about it. It
Right.
is so crucial. And nowadays people forget about it because they're so enclosed, especially because of the pandemic as well. People have lost social skills, unfortunately, you know.
Yeah.
The
Social
natural
distance.
social skills.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I truly believe in that. I dealt with a lot of toxic masculinity. You know, as a kid growing up, you know, my mother um, knew the best way she could in order to raise men. As a woman, it's kind of difficult to raise a bunch of boys. She had all boys, no girls. So she's doing everything in her power to try and raise men. So whenever we cry, whenever we had an emotional spurt, you know, hey, big boys don't cry. Men don't, you know, only punks cry. All those things that you deal with on a common basis. Like you ain't trying to be no sissy, are you? Like, why are you crying? Why are you shedding tears? And then when you get older, you're not taught how to deal with these emotional situations. Like, I got 3 boys and 1 girl. And I'll be honest with you. For a moment when I first started parenting, I was the same way.
Yeah.
I was sitting there telling my kids whenever they fall to get back up. Don't stay down. You ain't no punk. All these things, figuring I was raising them as a man, but all I was doing is just adding on to the trauma they was already going through. All I was doing is just following the stigma of what already been put into me. And in order to change that narrative, I had to show the emotional side. I wanted you to know, I want my kids to know that you can express yourself, because once they get into a relationship, now they're not going to know how to communicate with their wife. Now they're not going
Absolutely
to,
wonderful.
yeah, they're not going to know how to say, baby, I'm dealing with this. I'm going through this. I'm at an emotional state right now. I'm very, you know, hurt behind this situation. They'll just keep it all bottled up inside. So I want to show my kids, especially my boys, my young men, my young kings, I want to show them that, hey, it's okay to be compassionate. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be emotional, because these are all feelings that you're supposed to have. If God didn't want you to have them, he wouldn't have put them inside of you.
That's absolutely right. Very, very important. What I would like to know is, which is also very important for many, many people, most probably, is what was the crucial point? Yes, you did explain that you had to come out with your emotion too, because you wanted to break the cycle. But what was the crucial point that broke the cycle? Because a lot of people do continue to follow what they have been brought up with, and they kind of struggle with breaking this cycle, even though if they are willing to do so, but they find it difficult and often then continue into the next generation with these things. So what made you switch at that point?
I have to give all praises to my wife. She's been a big supporting factor for me throughout our 12 years of being married, and throughout the time span, like I never listened to her. It was mostly just me. I responded, but I didn't take the opportunity to listen and then respond. But the whole time she was telling me that was certain, I couldn't always be stern with my boys. I couldn't always be like a drill sergeant and just come in and discipline them the way I would soldiers in the military. I need you to be their father. I need you to be my husband. I need you to be my protector, my provider. And I feel the only way you'll be able to do that if you express yourself, because I had so much inside that I was just going off on a rampage. And I figured this is how a man's supposed to be. I figured this is how a man's supposed to act, conduct himself. He's not supposed to express himself. When I'm hurting my family. And when she brought that to light, I was like, man, I got to change everything. I got to shift somehow. Now, it's not, I will say, it wasn't the easiest move for me. And it's still sometimes challenging. And it's something that I'm working through. But at the same time, I made that decision to make that change. And as time moves along, it gets easier and easier. It's okay to hug my boys. It's okay for me to tell them I love them. It's okay for me to sit there and tell my spouse, like, hey, I'm in a bad state right now. I'm feeling, you know, a certain type of way. And for her to really be like, okay, comforting, And for me to feel okay, with tears were running down my face in front of her, and for her to sit there and say, I got your back. So that was the real pivotal moment for me.
That is so beautiful. I mean, I guess you had a very, very supporting partner.
Yes,
And
yes.
understanding partner where you're most probably very fortunate with. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have these kind of support. So what would you believe, especially with, you know, your experiences in books and other things as well, and people you worked with now, what advice could you give them if they do not have this supporting line, these supporting people around them? Because
Right.
that
So,
must be really difficult then to realize for themselves to come out of that.
yes, absolutely. So I went down a point. So this is my second marriage. So the first one, it didn't work out as well. We went through growth spurts, I want to say, that we just outgrew each other and we went our separate ways. But in that transition, in that relationship, I was in a sunken place, depressed, felt like I didn't want to prove myself. I was still going with the toxic masculinity and all those things. But I would tell those people who are listening to this right now, who don't have that person that they can call on or they can confine in that support them, to just try to continue to work on yourself, continue to work on those areas of homing in on your triggers. I always give everybody a quick remedy. Write down the things that worries you the most, that you stress out about, that you deal with. Put them all on paper, and then put a line through everything that you can't control, and focus on the things that you can, and try to knock those things out. And then you will eventually find somebody, because I promise you, once you place boundaries in place, dealing with all the things that you deal with and the people that you're around, you'll start to see the real from the fake. And when you start to see the real, you'll start to open up more towards them. Hey, this is what I'm dealing with. Hey, this is what I'm going through. And they'll probably pour into you more than you'll ever know. So just focus on yourself first. Focus on you until the focus is on you.
You've done it so, mentioned it so beautifully. You articulated absolutely perfect. You're talking about self-realization, digging deep into yourself, but at the same time, because people don't understand emotions, they often don't know how to express or to understand what is going on with them. You found a way, or you're explaining a way of writing down things. That
Yes.
is one of very, very crucial psychological tools in writing down your thoughts and
Right.
writing down differences of emotions as well, you know, things to set boundaries as well from there, which is very, very important. I mean, I personally can relate to that because I'm a natural empath. I think I've mentioned that to you, that I
Yes.
went through so much trauma in my life that I wanted to become the healer.
Right.
And in the process of becoming the healer, I've actually didn't learn how to set boundaries. And when you don't learn how to set boundaries because of your past experiences, then suddenly you do attract the wrong people. Mm-hmm. And that can actually be quite difficult for your life, for, you know, going through various other experiences as well, until you then start understanding what emotions you have, and they may be not beneficial for you, or they may be not beneficial for others. That's when you start setting boundaries. And these are so crucial nowadays. You've made a very, very good point about that.
Thank you.
No, lovely. It's wonderful to hear, actually. I mean, generally, what are the main triggering points for you? I know you mentioned about it's your compassion, which I can feel, I can see that you're writing the book. What are the main triggering points for you, just to continue? Because often people have this compassion in the beginning, and at some point they lose sight of it. Right. They don't know where to go because it's fulfilled.
Right.
So how do you keep on motivating yourself?
So I have something I call a GPS, and we all know GPS get you from one place to the next, right? So GPS for me stands for goals, purpose, and a strategy. And
that's ingenious.
Thank you. And so for me, my goal is my why. Like, why do I really want to do this? Everything that I'm doing right now, I want to create generational wealth. I want to build a legacy for my kids. I want to change the narrative. So that's my why. My kids. So every day that I see my kids, I know I got to keep grinding. I know I got to go harder, because everything that I'm doing now, I'm walking so they can run. So everything that I'm doing is for them. So I got to come up with a purpose. That's my also dealing with my purpose, right? So my purpose is to make sure that I provide hope. I help one person every day. And I know that the best feeling in the world is helping others. Remember, I said it's a blessing to be a blessing. That's the attitude of gratitude. All these things flow together because I feel like everybody was put here to serve in some capacity. Everybody was put here to help others in some type of way, shape, fashion, or form. I believe that it's the same way with comedians. Comedians wouldn't have a job if it wasn't meant for us to laugh and have a sense of humor. They're serving a purpose. They're making us laugh because having a sense of humor and us laughing helps us emotionally, help us mentally, and help us, physically as well. But some people might not know that. But at the same time, by having that strategy to keep you on point, to make sure when you fall off track, you're able to get right back on track. It's just like a GPS. As soon as you find a certain point that you might hit a detour, it's going to redirect you. It's going to get you back on track to get to your destination.
That's so lovely said. I think that's the difference between man and female thought process and male thought process as well, because female are very, very, I would say, biologically, neurologically and biologically built to focus on a lot of things and nurture them, where a male brain can works very well in a structured environment. And you brought that forward so well, that as long you have you put your structure in place, like the GPS, where you can find yourself again if you lose sight of your way. As long you have that in place, you can never get lost.
Right. Absolutely. You write it on paper, make sure that you write the vision, make it plain, something that you can see every day. And it's just like when you go to the grocery store. Have you ever noticed when you go inside the grocery store, if you don't have a shopping list, you start to pick up things that you don't need. It's just like life. You start to pick up things that you don't need. And next thing you know, you're coming out with more than you even thought about. But if you write down the list, your strategy, and go in with that same purpose, when you go into the grocery store, you go there, you get what you need, and you come right back out. It's quicker, it's faster, it's efficient.
Absolutely. And you're working with your strengths. As I said, that's the biological strength of a man, to have structure in place. If you do not have structure in place as a man, you lose sight very often. And you become delusioned, you become irritable, you become confused, and you kept that so well. And I can see you've embraced your masculinity. That's another point which I wanted to bring up, especially in nowadays world, where people are actually forgetting what it means to embrace your masculinity as a man and embrace your femininity as a woman. Because God has given us natural things to nurture, natural things to embrace, which we can then put out into our environment, put out into our life, and build onto that. You're doing that so lovely. I love that.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that.
No, that's wonderful to hear. And we need more people like that, to be honest. There's too much, absolutely, there's too much toxic environment around. And I think it's not just about the toxic environment, it's more about understanding. People have lost sight of what it means to be human again. What abilities, what capabilities we are actually given by nature, by God in general, to fight through all these things.
Yes, I feel like we're his greatest form of creation. We're God's greatest form of creation. If you think about any existence on this earth, as human beings, we're his greatest form of creation, because a lion doesn't see an eagle and try to fly, but we can. As humans, we can fly airplanes, jets, helicopters. We can fly in the air just as high or higher than any animal or creature on this earth. And it's all because we're his greatest form of creation. We're able to think at our own capacity and speed. It's kind of
That's
like,
right.
yes, it's kind of like the reason why we have so much of dealing with the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, because of the abilities that we've been given on this earth. Because he continues to tell us, hey, do not be conformed to the ways of this world, but the renewing of your mind. He's telling you right there, I gave you the ability to use your mind to the best of it, but at the same time, it could be an asset or a liability, depending on how you utilize it.
That's absolutely right. And you made a very good point between the human race. Remember, I always emphasize on the one human race. That's what it
Right.
is.
Yes.
And the animal race. What is important is, and your point is very crucial to that and the animal race is been made to act instinctively.
Yes.
We can use our thought process, our mind, our brain above that. We have our instinction. We think instinctively by nurturing things, putting structures in place. But at the same time, we can think above that, as you mentioned. We build airplanes. We can think from left to right, which animal cannot do. They live how the ancestors live most of the time. Some of them may astray a little bit, but most of the time it just continues the same cycle. But we have a different kind of intelligence, and that's what we need to build up on. People often forget that we have been given the gift as a human race to have a conscious and a subconscious, which
Yes.
the animal race doesn't often have.
Right. Absolutely. Man, I promise you, I'm in total agreement with everything you say right now.
No, that's lovely. I mean, that's all what my work is about as well, and which is why I clicked onto you so well, because I thought, you're talking my mind, and I think you had similar kind of feelings in that way, or experiences in that way as well.
Right.
And it's nice to see when you come to a point of embracing yourself, of identifying yourself, of finding yourself, that you then automatically actually link up and connect to very similar minded souls and minds.
Yes, absolutely.
It
goes back to what you said.
Say absolutely. And that's why people need to understand that there's often a misconception about we are what we attract, which is absolutely wrong. What we need to understand is that as soon we're aware of who we are, we will understand that we often attract the opposite side. And from that side, we have to actually then filter out, which you said earlier, which people are beneficial to us and which people are actually thinking very much like towards us or beneficial to us, people get engulfed or become blinded to others who are attracted to them, to their attributes, to their values, to whatever they're actually reflecting, without actually thinking that they're maybe not good for them. They need to keep boundaries. They need to separate from these. They need to understand who they really are and why they're attracting certain people in order to build themselves a healthy environment.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And you've done that so lovely. I can imagine that, especially going through your childhood, the way how you've experienced certain things, you could have easily stayed that way. There's many people who come out of the military even after and have a similar background do go back into what they've known. And that is a very natural way to do that. You go back to what you're familiar with, wherever it's good for you or bad for you. But you created this self-awareness within yourself to create an understanding of what is actually good and what shouldn't be there.
Right. Right. We are not meant to be ordinary. We're meant to be extraordinary. We're not meant to be average. We're meant to be savages. So why not build on that when it comes to having that opportunity? And I think everybody has that opportunity, but we get so comfortable with where we are because, your mind is created to protect you. It's created for survival. So a lot of things that you might find like give you a sense of feeling uncomfortable, that means, you're growing. I always see it as being stretched in order to grow. And a lot of times, once we get to that point where we're being stretched so far that we can't take it anymore, we lose sight of the vision, we lose sight of the dreams and the goals that we have, and we give up.
That's right. That's right. That's why we have to keep persevering, because it's the fear which you're describing, which holds us back. And that's why you see often people who go through that trauma, but like to keep them within themselves, within this experience, and do not want to evolve, because that's all they know. That's all they know. That gives them comfort, because that's something which they know. Everything which they have to step out to the unknown becomes fearful, becomes scary suddenly. But that's why we have to take the leap of faith. And just look outside of the box, look at a different narrative and a different perspective, and how we can come out of certain things. And the best thing to do so is what you've described earlier, is to analyze what is really good for you right now, and what is actually harmful to you.
Yes. I mean, like, change is inevitable. Like, regardless of how we see it, like, everything is going to change in every type of way. Look at where we were like 3 years ago. Like, I really, I wasn't a big social media head or anything like that prior to the pandemic. We might not have ever connected or met in no type of way if the pandemic didn't happen. You understand what I'm saying? So change is inevitable, which means you have to adapt. Adaptability is a sense of resilience. You have to adapt and overcome in order to face those challenges, in order to make it to that next level that you're trying to achieve.
Adapting and overcoming, that is absolutely crucial for resilience, to build resilience, and then to progress from that. No, that's lovely. I could be continuing talking to you about forever, actually. No, love it. Absolutely love it. So your next book, what is this about? Tell me about it.
So my next book is called From Combat to Come Back. So it's dealing with 6 attributes in order to conquer adversity. So, we deal with multiple levels of adversity: mental, physical, social, financial. You deal with all these things dealing with adversity. It's inevitable. We all deal with it. Well, I'm giving you tools and strategies in order to overcome it. Now, this is not for anybody who not trying to put in the work, who's looking for a quick fix, because it's not going to happen. Ain't no such thing. You have to put in the work. If you want to be successful, you have to put in the work. If you want to achieve greatness, you have to put in the work. But this book will guide you. It'll point you in the right direction. Everything that I provided in this book has been like skill tested. It's not nothing that's just straight knowledge based. This is from experiences. I talk about everything that I dealt with during the pandemic. I talk about dealing with my divorce. I talk about combat, childhood, adverse childhood experiences, trauma, PTSD, all these things that I dealt with. I talk about the strategies and tools in order to help you get to that next level and overcome adversity.
That sounds fantastic. I think I will buy the first copy once it's ready.
Thank you.
It sounds very good. I'd love to read it, actually. When do you think is that going to be ready? This year, probably?
Yes, we're looking towards springtime, April 2020.
Oh, very soon. That's fantastic. Yes. Do put me in your mailing list, please. Do so.
Absolutely.
No, it's been wonderful talking to you. Actually, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. And yes, I'm actually quite glad having met you.
Yes, likewise. Absolutely. I enjoyed every bit of this conversation. I look forward to continuing to have more conversations like these and continue to support you in everything you have going on.
Thank you very much. No, it's been wonderful. I'm actually also thinking of collaboration in multiple people, means rather than just having 2 people. Sometimes it's nice to have like a little small group discussion as well, coming from different aspects, coming from different point of views, and debate with each other. That's something where I'm building up on at the moment. And I think that would be a change as well. This year, I'm focusing more on a lot of things which are very crucial nowadays, especially in the US, which is why I also approached you to get to know your background, because what is very important is that people of color in general find that because of the conditioning which has been going on over centuries and over years and hundreds of years, when you put a certain mindset over and over in place that you cannot do this, you cannot achieve this, you have to be a certain way, you do not have these opportunities, people embrace these things, unfortunately, which is why I'm emphasizing so much on my latest clip on this, because it's not about other parts of other ethnicities. It's about specializing at the moment the ones who need the most. And that is the Black community right now. I feel that personally, because there's a huge stigma about generally about a certain portrait which has been portrayed over through media, over cultures, that the Black community has a certain way about them. They cannot do certain things, or they're certain, I don't know how to describe it. It's more about a misconception how a person of color can be. And I find that very, very wrong, which is why I'm kind of becoming the advocate of fighting against it. Even my own community, there's a lot of misconceptions about that, and these beliefs need to change, which is why I would like to bring more forward people who have achieved, who have actually overcome this mindset and didn't become victimized within themselves from societal pressures.
Right, absolutely. I believe that for me personally, us as the African-American race has been suppressed for so long. Anytime that we did try to get ahead, we was always knocked back down. And for a long period of time, all these things happen, segregation, slavery, all these things. And then once you get to a point where, all right, now we're gonna let you have freedom. All right, now during the transition of freedom, there was no mental health. There was no wellness as far as like allowing us true opportunity to have a certain place in this, in this world or any type of way. It's always been some type of setback, when it comes to the voting rights. When you think about the opportunities that we have as far as the women, they was always dealing with like being pressured. Like, no, you are not supposed to do this. Black men, wages were lower. It's so many things that was dealt with that had never been, expressed or addressed and resolved. And it just, now it got to a point where it's a volcano and it's erupted. And now people are trying to still like, oh, no, it's all good. Everything is cool. But at the same time, we can't fall victim because that's the generational curse. If we continue to do what our ancestors did, or, continue to implement things that our parents or our grandparents put in our brains, but that's not the case. You're able to make a change. You're able to change the narrative of what's been going on so long. I feel like due to my ancestors, I'm able to do the things that I'm doing today. All the ones that fought so hard for us to have those equal rights, I can't let them down. I gotta keep moving forward. I'm a representation of them. They fought so I can be where I am today. So why would I even sit here and try to have a small mind, or wouldn't try to change the narrative or continue to try and influence what they brought to the table? Like, man, don't get me started.
I'm totally with you. I'm totally with you. And I guess you can imagine that often I'm fighting with my own community about that. The main point is, which I find very sad, is I'm a very spiritual person.
Yes, me too.
And I've grown up in a kind of very prejudiced kind of environment, although they're all, faithful, they're all believers, how they perceive themselves. And I'm not criticizing their own beliefs, but what I do criticize is when you start, and that is part of conditioning, societal conditioning as well, over years and centuries, that certain group of people from certain background have been put into a certain standard, in a certain social status, in certain ways how people look at them. And that is very, very ungodly for me personally. You know, I've brought up my kids in just seeing a person as a person, and you judge the person from their character, wherever you like them or not.
Yes.
For me, wherever you're black, blue, brown, red, yellow, it doesn't actually matter at all. No. I don't see that. Literally, I don't see that, because it doesn't, or even their social status doesn't matter for me. You know, my background comes from the German diplomatic service, and I've met a lot of high society people, high dignities in my life. But I could actually go and have a talk with an ambassador in the same way how I would go to a road sweeper. So from that kind of thing, I personally believe that we must become more human. And that is why I'm bringing these issues more forward, because especially the Black community needs that at the moment. We need to bring out these stigmas and eliminate them, because they've been created by society. Bring out these really misconceptions from people's minds, that a certain person can only come from a certain background and can only be a certain way, which is absolutely wrong. It's absolutely wrong. I mean, a lot of people have even asked me now, because I'm supporting so much, oh, are you from the Black community? What does it matter? I'm not from the Black community, but it doesn't matter for me. But that is what people then become confused about it, because they don't see enough. They don't actually see enough that we are just human beings, and we must try to implement the righteous above the wrongness, you know. And what is going on at the moment, these segregation, I don't like them. I would like to completely eliminate them and put really more common sense in people to make them understand you need to go back to basic. Because the main point is, if you go into child psychology, when you have two children playing with each other, they could be from any different ethnicities. They don't see color. They don't see where you come from. They don't see how rich you are. They don't see how poor you are. They don't see how you look like. The only thing they see is, oh, there's a play buddy. I want to play with that.
I learned that from my kids. My youngest son, when he was younger, roughly about 4 or 5 years old, he was at the playground playing, and there we was in Hawaii, and there were people, Hawaiian, white, Black, all these other races or ethnicities around. Now, during the time frame, I said, hey, it's time to go. He was like, Daddy, I'm playing with my friend. It wasn't, you know, somebody he's seen because of their color or anything like that. He's seen somebody that he was having fun with, somebody who's seen this, you know, the same views as him, that was just enjoying the moment. And, you know, as you get older, that's when you start to bring to light other things. But as a child, you just worried about having fun and enjoying the people that surround you.
And that's what we need to understand, exactly. We need to understand that we're innately born with being human. Everything else which we learn is from the conditioning of our environment, what we absorb, what we receive, what we've been taught about. It's not something which we're born. That's not how God made us.
Exactly. You know, race was something that was created by men, but we was created by God. Regardless of what our complexion is, dealing with the environment, of course, he wanted to help us to be able to protect from certain things that goes on, how he created this earth, how he created this world. So my color might be darker than yours, but it's due to the fact of my genetics, due to the fact of everything that's the environment that I'm conditioned to be in. So it's just part of how the world was created and how God placed life on this earth.
Exactly. And what we need to also understand is that scientifically, if somebody wanted to, and nobody can discuss race with me, you know, because I put them in their place. Genetically, we're 99% the same. Right. The 1% which makes us different is exactly like the animal race as well, is the geographical differences and our heritage. That's it. That's what makes us slightly different. But genetically, from our blood, from our bloodstream, from our bone structure, from everything which we are human beings, the brain, the mind, that is exactly the same.
Yes.
You know, we had to, I mean, now it's a bit different because we have houses, we have airplanes, we have the infrastructure, but back in the days, we had to adapt ourselves as human beings to our natural environment. And that is why we look aesthetically slightly different. No other reason at all. Because to be honest, as a completely, I would say, low melanin person, I will be very, very politically correct because I don't believe in black and white. It doesn't exist. Scientifically, it doesn't. Biologically, it doesn't exist. A low melanin person back in the time would not be able to survive in the deepest Africa. They cannot, because the sun is too strong. Plus, imagine the hyenas and lions, they would spot them from far. They cannot hide.
Right.
So we had to adapt to our environment the same way like yourself or myself even. We could not survive in Alaska back in the day. Because we would be too visible. Our melanin level, our bone structure cannot cope with this extreme cold.
Yes.
Which is why a lot of us are also suffering in these cold countries. Because our structure, generally our bone structure is not made for these things, you know. That's why you have to understand that. So if you look at it from the logical point of view, human race is just one race. There are no different races. Otherwise, we would be looking like Star Trek, where everyone has a different kind of way. It is true.
Right.
We all have 10 fingers. We all have 2 arms. We all have 2 legs. We all have a head. We all have a brain. We all have a body structure. Female have their female bodies, male have their male bodies. So why would you even remotely think that there's different human races?
Right.
It just doesn't comprehend. It just doesn't make no sense. And that's why I'm trying to recondition people's minds and just bringing them back to their roots, to make them understand that these things have been created to be powerful over another group of people, so they can be used for their own benefits, you know, to create their wealth, to create other things, to be superior over somebody else. But there was no other reason.
Right.
Because God didn't create us this way. If you look at 500 years ago, pre-colonialism, you would only see tribal wars. So one tribe would fight against the other one, where the one who loses would be enslaved, but enslaved in a different kind of way. It was not practiced as it was in colonialism, slavery. Because that was just something which I describe. I wouldn't like to say that, otherwise they ban me from YouTube, but it's something which is inhuman. It's absolutely been inhuman, and it's been created on the basic of color of a certain group of people, which is very, very sad to see. And that is why I want to bring back, you know, we all have intelligence and we all can build onto that. My latest clip has gone viral, it's still coming on, you know, people are debating about that. Well, I was talking about Black creators, for instance, because of US has their Black History Month at the moment. Right. It's in February, which I'm quite glad of, because I'm Aquarius. It's my month. And it's Black History Month. So in order to celebrate that, I thought I need to bring out something, because my content is about motivation. It's about, boosting self-esteem. I wanted to bring out something what it would make people believe again. And to make people believe again, you have to bring out something which is relatable. So if people see someone like yourself, or someone which Godfrey was mentioning about Black inventors, and they can relate to someone who looks like them, it will spark their motivation.
Right.
That is my main purpose. And the main purpose wasn't about putting someone else down, or putting another ethnicity down, or putting their ways of thought process down, or there aren't other inventors. That was not the point, because these things haven't been taught in schools generally in our education. To bring them out into the light is so crucial for someone's self-esteem and self-belief.
Absolutely. Like I always tell people, man, you're always going to be the villain in somebody's story. You won't always be the hero. So somebody, just because you bring in the light something that truly matters, that's very important, that need to be brought awareness of, somebody going to find some way to criticize you in some type of way due to their self-esteem or whatever they need to do in order to boost their characteristics of who they feel they are and what's right.
Absolutely. But important is also to bring the foundation forward. So if you create a self-belief and people start believing and seeing people who are like them, that they can have opportunities, they can become who they want to become, then they can build up onto, managing criticism, for instance, and managing different opinions as well. Unfortunately, you can't build all of that together. So we have to start from somewhere. So I started from the foundation of creating this boost, creating these motivations, creating this self-vision of you can do it.
Right.
And that is so important. So yes, that's my beliefs, and I'm generally really, really glad that you share very, very similar values. And that's what we can just say. I mean, I can even say to my own community in general that just because someone comes from a different community doesn't mean that one is superior than the other. It just means you can just connect to any person in the world, regardless of where they come from, regardless of what they gone through, if you open your mind to that.
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah, that is my message, and hopefully that message goes through. Go through, and I will keep fighting for that. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure meeting you. Absolute wonderful. And yes, please stay in touch. It would be lovely to see when your book has been released, the second book. Maybe we can start another, hold another podcast again. And I will see if I can maybe join more people. At the moment, I'm also focusing on a lot of musicians as well, because they have, there has been a lot of issues in terms of racism, in terms of prejudice, and how they've gone through certain things. So it would be lovely to collaborate in that way. And yeah, wonderful to have you again. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Like I said before, I think everything that you're doing is phenomenal. I just want to keep on encouraging you to keep moving forward in everything that you believe, because as far as where you're going right now, I think you're opening a lot of people's eyes. You're bringing awareness. You're waking people up. A lot of people have been sleeping while they've been alive. And I think everything that you bring to the table is just truly awakening and very enlightening. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I'm trying just to be as I said, as more human as possible. We need just people to have common sense, to open up their mind and start thinking for themselves.
Right.
Rather than just following a crowd, No, it's been absolutely pleasure. And I'll let you go on with your day. I love your background. It's wonderful to see all your different achievements and certificates which you represent.
I really appreciate that.
That's very nice. Wonderful. And yes, do stay in touch. I will inform you when I'm going to release this clip. Okay. And we'll also send you a link, and please, feel free to share it in your network, wherever you want to do. And hopefully it gets to every corner in the world. We need people to listen to all these wonderful, wonderful things and people.
Yes, indeed. Most definitely.
Okay, you have a, yeah.
Enjoy your day, evening. Thanks. I don't know what it is over there, but make sure you enjoy your day, your week.
I will certainly do. It's 8:15 in the evening now, so okay. we'll be going to bed soon. Yeah. But yes, no, you have a lovely, lovely day. You still have a day ahead, I believe. So it's only midday over there.
Yes.
But yes, no, it's been absolute pleasure meeting you, and I enjoy really intelligent, like-minded conversation with people who you can just connect to.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. Have a lovely, lovely time, and take care of yourself. God bless. Bye-bye.
If you like the clip, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more